Hi everyone, my name is Tori Westphal and today's Tuesday, which means it's time to discuss our book of the week, which is Finn Rhodes Forever by Stephanie Archer. First, this is a spoiler-free section, so if you haven't read this book yet, don't worry about it won't be spoiled for you here. There will be some spoiler-related things that I want to discuss, but that'll be later on in the video and you will get plenty of warning. If you'd like to join in on any of the discussions, send me your thoughts, comments, or even a short video clip of you discussing the book, then I'll list the next upcoming 4 books in the description below. I rated this book 3.5 stars. Overall, I did really enjoy it. It's a very simple, small-town romance that is usually a pretty easy win for me. I would say that it's fairly easy to read, it flows nicely, and it has that sort of comforting structure where you know what you're going to get, and that's part of the appeal. I liked the concept and I liked the characters, and I especially liked the fact that they had this shared sort of goal, which created this sort of forced proximity element, which I think always works really well in a romance. Going into it, I did expect to enjoy it, and I did, despite the fact that I'm not actually a big fan of the second chance trope, but I actually didn't mind it so much in this one. Okay, so quick summary. This is a small town romance following Olivia and Finn, who were childhood best friends until Finn broke her heart 12 years ago. Now Olivia is still in that same small town trying to finish her PhD, and when Finn returns, she wants nothing more to do with him. Finn, on the other hand, he's convinced that they belong together and sets out to prove it. Now, if I had to compare this to any other book, I would probably say that it has a similar kind of vibe to The Enemy by Sarah Adams or First Time Caller by B.K. Borison. It's that easy, character-led romance that is more about their connection and growth rather than anything more complex. So from the very beginning, I kind of knew what some of my issues with this book was going to be, and that stayed fairly consistent throughout. That being said, it does hook you fairly quickly, it's easy and simple to get into, plus the pacing is done in a way that feels very fast, but natural, so it doesn't feel like you're skipping whole chunks of time. So even though I do feel like the book could have been a little bit shorter, it does still read quite fast. I liked the characters enough, I was invested in them, and I found myself rooting for them, but I did have a few small issues that were probably more to do with the overall setup and the timeline rather than anything too specific about the characters themselves. And I think because of that, I wasn't completely sold on everything from the beginning, but their chemistry and their connection between them did keep me engaged. I think that the romance itself does work. It's more of a slow burn, and the chemistry did feel believable, especially because it is only set over a summer, so you get that sense of time moving and progressing without feeling too rushed. I really like the banter and how their connection was rooted in the past. Like, it genuinely felt like two people who were close together that are now finding their way back to one another. Now, there is some spice in this book, however, I do think it was fairly well written. It was a little bit repetitive at times, but nothing that took me out of the story too much. So I do like the overall structure of the book. I do have a few small issues with it, as I said, but it's a simple concept and it does work. So as I said, my biggest problems with this book was the timeline and the overall setup, and I don't consider this to be a spoiler because it's literally on the back of the book, but 12 years is a long time. 12 years to hold a grudge, 12 years to stay away, and then 12 years to suddenly come back and say, hey, I think we belong together. And that's just where it took me out of the story a little. Like, I can understand the initial heartbreak, but the length of time just makes it really difficult to fully buy into the premise. But there are some stronger emotional themes that run throughout the book around how people are perceived and treated, and I do think that that added some depth to the story. So as for the question, would I recommend the book? Yes, I would. If you do like second chance romances set in a small town and you just want something that is easy, comforting, and straightforward to read, but if you don't particularly like small time jumps and you want something a little bit more complex, then this one might not be for you. So will I be reading any more by this author? Yes, I would. I mean, this book didn't completely blow me away. However, I did enjoy it enough that I would definitely pick up another book by Stephanie Archer. So earlier on in the video, I said that you get plenty of warning for any upcoming spoilers. Now, this is that moment, so if you haven't read this book yet, I would suggest going doing that first, because beyond this point, there will absolutely be spoilers. So the 12-year gap, I just couldn't get on board with that. I mean, the high school mistake, completely understandable. The panic, the bad decisions, the heartbreak, it all worked. But the 12-year gap is just where it lost me. Like, people change so much during that length of time, especially at that age. Complete personalities, goals, total lives. And the book never really seems to address how these characters changed during that time. And I do kind of get it, because it's a lot easier to forgive a character for a high school mistake, and you want your characters to be old enough if you're going to be writing explicit content so it's not cringy. But the timeline just didn't work for me. Like, we're told that Finn has grown, but we never really see how. And there's not really any acknowledgement from other characters that actually he was just a kid when he made most of these mistakes. I also would have liked a better explanation as to why he came back when he did, because that part just felt really underdeveloped. And Olivia's attempts to push him away, like dressing poorly for a date, just felt a little bit weak. Like, I don't know, it wasn't a strong enough obstacle, and it was just dropped really quickly. That being said, I did like the ending. I liked the emotional resolution, I liked the growth, and I liked the acknowledgement that how people are treated can affect them. That acknowledgement that if you constantly treat someone like they're always going to mess up or aren't good enough, then how can you expect them to be better? It was one of the stronger emotional points for me, and it added some well-needed depth to Finn's character and the overall story and message. Because honestly, I do think that how Finn was treated was one of my biggest issues with the book. Like, there was just this sense that he was constantly being judged for who he was back then, and the book doesn't really seem to acknowledge just how much people changed during that time, especially when you're talking about that sort of gap and at that age. I guess it just made it a little bit harder for me to buy into some of the reactions, even if I could understand where they were coming from. But overall, I do think that Finn Rhodes Forever was a sweet, easy to read romance with good character chemistry and a solid emotional core. Like, it's not perfect. For me, I do think that the timeline and the setup definitely holds it back. However, it's an enjoyable read that I did have a good time with. But if you've read it, let me know what you thought, especially about that 12-year gap, because I need to know if it bothered anybody else. So next week we'll be discussing Never Lie by Freida McFadden. So don't forget to get your thoughts and comments in by Sunday the 5th of April at the latest to be a part of the discussion. You can now do this on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram or Discord. The following week we'll be discussing Gentlest of Wild Things, but don't forget, if you do need a little bit longer to read a book, we do now list the next 4 books down below along with the discussion dates. That way you can choose a genre that best suits you and the best time frame to read it in. Thank you all for joining, and if you like this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It's always appreciated, and I will see you next week. Bye! If you like romance, fantasy, or even thriller, basically anything fiction book related, then I suggest you head on over to the channel's intro video, where you can find out more information on how you can take part in this online book club. We announce books at least 4 weeks in advance, and we accept your bookish feedback in a wide manner of ways. Post your comment below a video, send in a voice note, or even send me a short video clip of you discussing the book. Alternatively, you can just send me a direct message.